Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of Viive Values. Super excited for our guest today because it's going to be like a little blast from the past for me. So I'm going to go ahead and invite him to join us here and we will get started. Oh, I hope that everybody is enjoying all the lovely spring weather. We've got the May long weekend coming up, which is going to be great. And I am just looking forward to having I think we've got him.
Whoopsie.
Patrick.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm,
I have a beautiful view of a
Thank you.
bookcase.
There
There
we
you
go. That's
are.
better.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today. I was just saying
Oh,
before you went live that this is like a blast from the past and also just sort of like a convergence of our past lives coming together with our new careers, which is so cool.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's hey, it pays to be friends with good people who do
Right.
good things and it comes
That,
around.
yes, for sure. Well, let me just share a little bit about you, Patrick. I
Uh-oh.
scoured, I know, right? No, nothing too bad.
Okay.
But so everybody knows this is Patrick Brown, and he is the co-founder of Mandina Group, an esteemed home renovation company specializing in tailor-made solutions for seniors. He's also a fractional COO and the founder of Northland Fractional Inc., a firm that delivers indispensable fractional services to businesses. So he's clearly an entrepreneur. He's a husband. He's also a recent father of now two children.
Yep.
You guys are getting close to being outnumbered. Careful there.
Yeah,
He also is a wonderful singer and performer. That's where our lives came together, was in
that is
that
true.
world. And was also a part of, because I love telling people that I knew someone who won this. He was a
Oh
part of
no.
the Toronto Northern Lights Barbershop Chorus when they won the 2013 International Chorus Competition, which is pretty
Yes.
cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's quite the bio. You hit all the spots.
I
And
know.
and just to be clear, I'm not the mayor of Brampton. That's not me.
Oh,
So
yeah, I think that's really clear that we put that out there. There are a lot of Patrick Browns in the world. You are not that one.
I'm
Yeah.
not that one. I'm not that one.
No, well, today, I mean, you are many things, but today we are going to focus really on the work that you and your team have been doing at Mandina Group. And we are going to talk about something that I like to talk about a lot and put a lot of content out about, which is aging in place. Now, before we dive into it, I know that you aren't the biggest fan of that phrase. And I, as a person who hates the phrase estate planning, because I think it is too limited of a phrase, we at Viive have rebranded that term and we use the term aging and end of life planning. So the fact that you and your team at Mandina Group have your own way of viewing something that right now is known as aging in place, I think we should start with that. Why is that not a term that really excites you? What is it you prefer to use?
uh, for me, I understand where it comes from. It's very functional, it's very
Yeah.
clinical, and it's clear to people who are trying to figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
My whole thing is it doesn't respect the modern senior. And, yeah, some age, I don't know. I think of aging in place. And I think of like a Far Side cartoon of like a skeleton sitting on a wingback chair because they've just been sitting there aging in place for
Right.
years and years and years doing nothing.
Literally sitting in
Yeah,
place. Like you
yeah,
see it as being stagnant and stuck
yeah,
as opposed to living your life fully.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that wasn't the intent behind it, but that's
No.
that's just kind of what it evokes for me. So for us, we don't want you to age in place. We want you to thrive at home, wherever that home
Ooh.
may be. That's what we're going for.
See, I like that too because I think in the, shall we say, the aging in place industry, because I feel like there's a whole industry just around
Oh,
boomers
huge.
specifically getting
Yep.
to have that right. I think that unfortunately they've made it seem like that's the only good option for a happy life. And
Mm.
unfortunately, that's not necessarily the
Yeah.
case. Your background previous to starting this company was in the retirement home space.
Yep.
And so you know that people can have thriving, wonderful lives
Yeah.
in those types of home situations
Absolutely.
as well. So I like that. What was it you said again? I want to write it down so I always use it now.
I don't want you to age in place. I want you to thrive at home.
Thrive at home. I'm writing it down because I like that a lot. I like that a lot. So I'm going to use thrive at home. I'm going to replace it
Excellent.
in all of the questions I have instead of aging in place here. So let's dive in. So starting with the basics, you kind of alluded to this. Maybe you can go a little bit deeper. What does
Sure.
thrive at home mean to you and Mandina Group?
Well, uh, let's take a step back. So I think as an industry term, aging in place, it refers to as people get older and their needs change for whatever reason, it's the ability to stay in the place that you're living because it can evolve with your
Right.
needs. So so from thriving at home, I see that on another level. I see that not only that in terms of meeting your basic needs, but how is your home set up in such a way and how's your lifestyle set up in such a way that you can have the best health span possible. That's a term I stole from Dr. Peter Attia, who runs the Drive podcast, has a great book called Outlive. And he refers to that as the length of your quality life, and which he has all sorts of ideas as to how to extend that. So that's how I see it, is not only living at home, but being able to be functional and use the things in your home and take advantage of the things in your home and being able to go and do the things that you want to do. That's what that means to me.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that you and your team are looking to expand that view. I mean, I think the people who kind of started the aging in place mentality and industry, they did it obviously with all of the right intentions,
Sure.
right? But it's true. I mean, as we see this, so shall we say, the younger generation of boomers, the ones who are still in their late 50s, early 60s, who for a lot of them are super healthy and doing well and not having to think that way. I mean, that's actually
Yep.
the time to start thinking about making changes before you actually need to. And if we can reframe that in a way that sounds really positive and makes them feel excited about making changes in advance, I mean, that's really the best for everyone involved. So I love that that's the mentality you guys are taking.
Yeah.
Now, on the surface, it seems like thriving at home is probably a lot more affordable than moving into a retirement home, whether that be independent living or assisted living. But the reality is actually a little bit more complicated than that. I think that's something that doesn't get explained more so in
Sure.
in our society. So can you maybe tell us a little bit about why that is?
Yeah. Absolutely. It really comes down to the individual circumstances and what do they need in order to be able to thrive at
Yeah.
home. So, for some people, it could simply be that they just need to make sure they're taking some exercise classes to stay in shape, but otherwise they're mobile. But if you've got someone who's got mobility issues, maybe they need some accessibility devices like a stair lift, or maybe even an elevator,
Mm-hmm.
or they might need an entire bathroom remodel. Or my mother-in-law has mobility issues, and she had to basically do a complete expansion on the ground floor of her house because she
Mm-hmm.
couldn't make use of the second floor anymore. So
Yeah.
when you start to look at the kind of costs that you might spend on those kind of things compared to downsizing to a condo, an adult lifestyle community, senior apartments, retirement living, now you're starting to get into conversations where there might be some comparability. Also, you want to take into account, for example, going to a retirement residence, you're not going to have to pay for food as much anymore.
Yeah.
You're not going to have to pay your utility bills. You're not going to have to pay your property tax bills. You might not need a car anymore. There's a whole host of different things. Plus, there's tax breaks
Mm-hmm.
depending on your needs and what your situation is. So, any retirement residence worth their grain of salt would have some sort of a comparison tool for you to be able to look at, okay, here's what I'm paying now, here's what I'm going to pay in the future, and get a real sense of what
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking off to the side because I wanted to actually pull up so I could quote the name, and I'm going to put it in the comments later. But Scotia did, Scotia Bank, specifically, I believe it was Scotia Wealth Management, they did a huge survey and put out this amazing white paper. And it was written by a woman named Rebecca Young, who's an economist at Scotia. And it really goes into so many details. I'll send it to you too, Patrick, if you haven't seen it,
Sure.
about the cost of aging.
Mhm.
And she's an economist, so obviously she's coming at it, with that very analytical point of view, but it was so validating when I read it because I went, wow, here it is, just clear as day, what it's going to cost to live to be 95, like really
Mhm.
cost to live to be that old. And something that I see a lot with financial planners and advisors is they spit out those financial projections for you, but they're not actually taking into account how expensive it is to be old,
Yeah.
like to actively be aging, whether that be renovating your home or bringing in PSWs or whatnot. It isn't something that's being taken into account yet. I think we're going
Right.
to see that happening more and more with the financial industry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to tag that below so that people can read it because it's a really great understanding of what all of us have ahead. And for those of us younger, like you and I, Patrick, I mean, we need to be thinking about if it's going to cost this much for our parents, how much is it going to cost for us down the line? Because the
Right.
boomers are
Yeah.
going to impact this industry because there's just
Huge.
so many of them and they're going to
Yeah.
live a lot longer than I think we all think they are.
Absolutely. There's also the wealth transfer factor to take into
Yeah.
account. So, a lot of people who are making these decisions about where they want to live, some of them have been in their home for
Yeah.
decades, and the value of that home has gone up dramatically. And
Mm-hmm.
so now they're sitting on a large amount of
Yeah.
wealth that they may want to downsize if for no other reason to be able to transfer that wealth to their adult children at a time when they need it.
Exactly.
So anyways, lots of
Oh
considerations to
yeah.
take into
We
place.
could talk about this forever, but
Oh
we'll move on. So, what kinds of renovations or changes might people want to make to their home in order to thrive in the home that they are in right now?
Sure. I mean, and there's all sorts of things that could be done, but there's things that are driven by specific needs. So there's obviously all kinds of accessibility devices, grab bars in your bathroom, maybe a stair lift, but it also could be as simple as adding a second railing on your staircase.
Okay.
There are actually even elevators now that look quite elegant and
Oh,
have a small footprint
cool.
that some homes can accommodate. So there's those types of things, but then there's just general safety things. So lighting, for example, is a big one. We don't appreciate how much bright lighting is important. So especially in work areas like your kitchen counters, do you have good under counter lighting,
Okay.
things like that? Do you have options to have dimmers? They've got so many different things for like smart lighting now, where
Mm-hmm.
you have all these bulbs in your house and they're all controlled by your phone. They can
Yeah.
be motion sensor, they can be timed, they can be dimmed, all kinds of things like that. So lighting's huge. Another thing is flooring, and at an extreme level, it could be replacing your flooring to something that's non-slip but still elegant and beautiful. Floor transitions are really
Yeah.
important when you're going from, say, carpet to floor or carpet or floor to tile.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that is as flat and smooth and with no height change whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And on a similar vein, without a lot of cost, get rid of area rugs, get rid of things that are trip hazards.
Yeah.
And even if you're mobile, falls are the number one thing
Yes.
for seniors. That's the biggest risk for seniors. It changes everything. So
Mm-hmm.
you want to eliminate all fall risks. Eliminating clutter, outside your walkways, make sure your grass and your hedges are trimmed back and things like that. And inside the house, make sure nothing's in the way. Storage, how you store things is big. They make some great things for kitchens. Like we've all seen these beautiful kitchens with these cabinets that are way up high that I couldn't even reach them, and I'm 6 foot
Yeah.
3. Well, now they got products where you open the door and you can literally pull down the entire
Oh,
inner rack of the cabinet, and
it's handy
and
just for anyone who's under a certain
absolutely.
height, man.
Yeah, so you can make modifications like that.
Mm,
Bathrooms are obviously a big deal.
yeah.
There's lots of things like grab bars now. There's stylish grab bars that
Yeah.
don't look like a hospital room. They're built into the toilet roll holder. They're built into the soap
Hmm.
dish. They're built into all the different
Cool.
things. You've got great shower faucets and things that have levered controls and temperature displays. So, and they even also now have conversion kits for the standard bathtub. Like if you have one of those standard inset ceramic bathtubs,
Yeah.
you can get a conversion kit to cut away the middle of the threshold to bring it down to about a 6-inch height, so you can
Oh,
more easily step in and out of
that's
your
cool.
bathtub rather. So yeah, there's lots of things around bath. The bathroom is a big one. It's a big safety
Hmm.
thing. So those are kind of the key ones. After that, yeah, it's just making sure you're not going to trip, making sure you're not putting heavy things up on high
Hmm.
shelves, things like that. Those are the big hitters.
Do you also handle, I think I was just thinking through my own house as you were talking. So I'm thinking about like walking up my front door. Like, would you handle landscaping outside as well to make
Yep.
it easier to get up with a walker or wheelchair or whatever? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Whether it's
Nice.
ramps
Hmm.
or just making sure the walkway is nice and smooth
Yeah.
without jagged edges and things like
Hmm.
that, or putting in railings, putting in pathway lighting.
Yeah.
Outdoor walkway lighting is huge. There's lots of different options there. Yeah, we basically can do anything inside or outside the home. We have
Hmm.
an amazing team of not only our own internal team, but our army of sub trades
Hmm.
who are all vetted and very well trusted. So
That's
yeah, we do all of
awesome.
that.
That's awesome. A question that just came to mind. I know that sometimes when I'm working with clients and we're talking about, because pretty much everybody says, I want to, and they use the phrase age in place, they want to stay in their home. And I say, okay, well, like looking at, I have this one client I'm working with right now where already there is intense mobility issues going on, and she's not that old to be quite honest yet. And already
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have to do some serious work to your home. And something that her kids brought up, which I think is a fair point, is if we do a whole bunch of renovations to this home, she lives here for a while, eventually she has to move out or she dies. And
Yep.
then we're selling this house, but this house is designed for an aging person. And are we going to lose on resale value? Because the person who's going to buy it, chances are, is going to be someone in their late 20s, early 30s who's going into the housing market for the first time.
Right.
So, how do you, when people say things like that to you, like, is this going to impact the value of my home, given that chances are it's going to be a younger generation buying it? How do you discuss that with clients?
It's like it is a conversation, but we always have an eye towards that resale value.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we want it to look beautiful.
Yeah.
So ideally, someone coming in, maybe see a few features that, yeah, they're geared towards seniors, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
Right.
Certainly, if you have a bathroom that's just got grab bars all over the place, that's a bit of a different story.
Yeah.
So in some cases, you might have to do some small modifications, but the vast majority of what we would do would be not only good for the senior, but also good for the resale value of the home.
Right.
So that's very important to us because again, it's never even mind the resale value. It's just the present value of living in it and feeling like you're in your home. You don't want to
Yes.
feel like you're in an institution.
Exactly, because the whole point of staying there is to avoid that feel. So,
Yeah,
exactly, that's what you want. That's great. And so let's say that thriving at home, in the home you are in right now, just is not going to work for someone
sure.
because of health or financial reasons or whatnot. So, what are their next best choices? Like, if being in their home, I mean, my grandma used to say, I'm going out feet first, right? She's going out on a stretcher in a coffin. Like, that was just decided.
Right.
Unfortunately, she didn't get to do that because we did just get to a point where it was like, no, you are not safe here. And she was actually in a bungalow home that was built for retirees, those
Hmm.
large doorways, like everything.
Sure.
And it's still, we got to a point where it was just not good for her to be there.
Yep.
So, what are the next steps for people? What could they be starting to explore to learn about where they could go next? And I know that's kind of pulling on your past career a
Uh,
little bit, but maybe you could
it's
speak to
okay.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, I mean, as much as what we do is to help people stay in their home as it is, we totally understand that that's not going to be a great fit for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would say one key thing is you want to always be thinking ahead. You want to always be planning years down the line and looking at what might be coming and just keeping your options open.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I always like to help people understand is you want to make the choices while they're in your control to make.
Yes.
And rather than when a crisis comes along and somebody else now is making the decisions
Mm-hmm.
for you. So there's a few different things. I mean, the scope and the breadth of senior living options is growing.
Mm-hmm.
I think because the boomer generation is coming in and they're forcing the industry to
Yeah.
change because they're different. They're,
Yeah.
and it's not just like it's been a quick flip switch with the boomer generations. It's been evolving over
Mm-hmm.
the last 20, 30 years,
Yeah.
and some places in retirement have been kind of ahead of the curve on that. Others are a little bit slow to turn, but it's a big industry, so there's lots of options out there.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got seniors apartments where you can still cook for yourself, but you've got some amenities available. You've got adult lifestyle communities with those kind of bungalows that you talked about, but someone's
Mm-hmm.
taking care of the grounds and there's some common space. Then you've got the traditional retirement living, which is now starting to open up into more independent suites at different levels, maybe even townhomes
Mm-hmm.
or condos, things like that. So, I think the thing is you just want to educate yourself as to what the options are. You want to know, you got to understand that not every place is going to be the
Mm-hmm.
same. Even if they offer the same things, it's going to have a different feel. It's going to have a different
Yeah.
atmosphere and vibe. Take advantage of the things that the salespeople at these facilities will offer.
Yeah.
Go to an event, go take them up on a weekend trial stay.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't like my business partner likes to say there's value in knowing what you don't like,
Yes.
right? So, you just go, you kick the tires and you try things out and you start to figure out what's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the more planning you do early on, and just think, okay, 5 years from now, where do I think I need to be? I'd like to be here, but let's just see what else is out there.
Exactly.
I think as long as you're always kind of keeping your options open and staying educated, then I think it'll become clear what to do when the time comes.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And that's something that I say all the time to people. Like, you might not be thinking about what's coming down 5, 10 years from now, but this is the time. You have the time. You're retired. Go see what's out there. Go learn
Yeah.
what's in your area. If you're insistent on staying in Whitby, well, what is in Whitby? What's accessible for you to go move into if you want to be near your
Yep.
grandkids or great grandkids or whatever? You need to start learning about it now, because I think what ends up happening, which we're seeing with a lot of older Gen X dealing with their aging parents, is that they're having to make these snap, quick decisions. And
Yep.
people are ending up in facilities or in their home with PSW care that they don't want. And it's because you're making it in an incredibly stressful moment in your life. And so these decisions are made very fast and without a lot of research being done, because you don't
Yep.
have the luxury of time to do the research. But when you
Yep.
do, when everything's hunky dory and good to go, like, that's when you should be learning. That's when you should be looking into Patrick and Mandina Group and thinking, what do I need to do? I know
Yeah.
I'm going to want to stay here. I know I'm going to want to make renovations. What do I need to save to be able to do that, right? Because of the
Yep.
cost involved. Like, start doing that research now. And speaking
Yep.
of which, if people want to start doing that research, Patrick, how do
Mhm.
they get in touch with you? How do they learn more about the work that you and your team does?
Sure. So you can obviously go on our website, mandinagroup.ca. We do have an Instagram page, which we just got together in
Yeah.
preparation for this event. Like, okay, we're going to do an Instagram live. We need an Instagram account.
Yeah, we get
Um,
it.
and I think if you're going on those and you can sign up to receive updates from us,
Mhm.
we're constantly doing events with whether it's with realtors
Mhm.
or other organizations, giving talks, educating people on different aspects of what they
Mhm.
can do and what options are out there. So that's, yeah, if you can get in touch with us that way, and we're happy to have a conversation. And even if it's, again, even if it's not for right now, if it's down the road. So
Mhm.
for example, I'm a certified Age Safe Canada home inspector,
Mhm.
which means I've been trained and I have the whole inspection list on going and inspecting someone's home through the lens of home safety for seniors. So all the
Nice.
stuff that I talked about, lighting, clutter, walkways being cleared, all of that kind of stuff. And then we can obviously talk about other things through that. We're
Mhm.
also we're about to pilot this, so it's down the road a little bit. We're putting together the Mandina Concierge Club,
Okay.
which is going to be a subscription service where instead of renovations, we're basically a repair property management service.
Okay.
So not necessarily lawn care or
Mhm.
house cleaning, because there's lots of organizations that do that,
Yeah.
although we may end up partnering with them. But for us, it's going to be a thing where a light fixture's wonky, your furnace blows out, your
Mhm.
roof has a leak, your faucet is leaking, your toilet's on the fritz, whatever it may be. You don't want to have to go online and look for someone. You don't trust the person who's a friend of a cousin
Yeah.
of a whatever. It's call us. We'll take care of it no matter what it
Mhm.
is. We're building in some value add things like home reminders and other
Mhm.
ongoing maintenance and inspection. So we're excited about that. But that's another way to kind of see what's coming down the pipeline and what you might need to deal with.
I think that's so smart. I think there's so much to be said for the actual person aging and for their adult children and family who are supporting them to know that with one phone call to Patrick and his team, because something happened and I'm on vacation in Cuba and I can't help my mom with this thing, that all of a sudden it can just be taken care of. I mean, to me, as a person who's going to support 6 parents through the aging process, oh God, the idea that I can just quickly make a call and be like, something happened at this parent's home.
Yeah,
Can you go take care of it? To me, that monthly cost or whatever you guys work it out is just so worth it. If it means that there's someone we trust and have a relationship with can step in and support in that way.
yeah,
Especially because I think some families have those connections to PSW companies, which is so
hmm
important and key, but they don't necessarily have either the relationships in place with subtrades that can support in a home like that, right? So it's like
right,
you're coming at it from that other angle, which I think is so important. So I'm excited about that
absolutely.
service for me.
That
I'm going to need it for all my parents someday.
Well, and going back to talking about costs, you make an interesting point about the family caregiver having to
Yeah.
make the calls, having to do the
Mm-hmm.
things. That's another thing to weigh in when it comes to cost. I was reading something recently where it said home caregivers, family caregivers, are often doing up to 5 hours of unpaid care per day.
Yeah. Oh, I believe
Like that's
it.
basically a job. Like
It
that's a
is.
full-time job,
Yep.
and it's stressful, and it's something that people aren't trained for and qualified
Hmm.
for. So
Hmm.
yeah, we're trying to alleviate that burden, give that peace of mind. The other thing we're bringing from the retirement world, our site supervisors are all have vulnerable sector police checks.
Hmm.
Everybody who comes on site, we're all wearing Mandina shirts, the whole thing. So we're just trying to eliminate that distrust
Yeah.
of contractors. We want to be a trusted source. We know that's important.
Hmm.
We're licensed, we're insured, we've got WSIB, we've got an
Hmm.
arm's length list of certifications and trainings in
Yeah.
place in order to build that trust.
That's good. And I think that's so important. And especially because I know a lot of people who've worked with great contractors, and not to diminish them at all, but just the accreditation you said that you recently got. I mean, that makes so much sense that you want someone looking at your home through that safety
Yeah.
lens. Because if you work with a brilliant contractor who knows what they're doing, but has never dealt with an aging client or an aging relative themselves, they're just
Yep.
ignorant on what to be looking for, right? So
Yep.
they hear you say, I want X, Y, and Z, and they go, yeah, I could do that for you. But they're not thinking about the whole long term picture. So the fact that that accreditation exists, the fact that you and your team have it and are able to go in and look at things through that scope, I think is so valuable of a service to have.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important to us.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the main things that drives what we do. So
That's wonderful. Well, Patrick, this was so great. It was so good to connect again. I love that we have found ourselves in this collective industry. I'm going to steal Thrive at Home. I hope that's
go for it.
okay with you, but I
That's
promise to
fine.
always give credit to Mandina Group. I think it is
Good.
a wonderful way of looking at the aging process. So thank you for being here. I will put a bunch of stuff in the comments, everybody, so that you can get in touch with Patrick and his team, so that you can see that Scotia article I was telling you about, because it's really informative. And one more episode this season, 2 Wednesdays from now. So stay tuned. And thank you so much, Patrick, for being here. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure and an honor.
Wonderful. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.